How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with your host, Dr. Joe Shrand.
Welcome, folks, to the Dr. Joe Show, exploring who we are and why we do what we do. And we have a world right now that, as we've been talking about, has so much stress in it. And we wonder, why do we do this? Why do we create so much stress in the world where we always have an opportunity to decrease it in each other? The best way to manage your stress is actually to help somebody else manage theirs, because then you become a benefactor, you become more valuable, and the other person appreciates you, and it increases our group. That's really what we're trying to do. And laughter is such an important part of this. Science of laughter is fascinating. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Our guest tonight is a science comedian, an award-winning TV host, STEM educator. STEM, folks, is, well, she can tell you what it is. Filmmaker and entrepreneur with degrees in behavioral neuroscience and theater. She is the creator of, okay, I'll give it away, Science with Sophie, a science comedy series reaching more than 2 million learners worldwide. Our guest is the founder of Cool Jacket Productions, a National Children's Museum trustee, and an Obama Presidential Center featured changemaker. Yes, folks, our guest is in the Obama Presidential Center. She's a former museum educator and Second City alum. Second City, as you guys know, is where Saturday Night Live, all those great, amazing improvisers. Her work has been featured by NPR, Scholastic, National Geographic Kids, and PBS. Her newest series, Sophie's Great American Electric Road Trip, in which she drove an electric car from LA to Boston and back, is now streaming on PBS Nature. You should watch it. I am so delighted, honored, and a little boastful, I must admit, to introduce my daughter, Sophie Shrand, our science comedian guest tonight. Welcome, Sophie.
The best part of the bio is at the very end, where I'm your daughter.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's so much fun having you on the show, because you really are doing some amazing things. Now, you're out there in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
And you're streaming across, what, 2 million learners? I love the way you say learners, not, listeners or viewers. It's wonderful. Thanks. So tell us what's going on. Wow, the Obama Presidential Center? What is happening here?
It has been quite a year so far, and it's only August, Who knows what's going to happen by the end of the year? Yeah, a lot's been going on. So Science with Sophie has existed for a long time. I started making that in 2016. We launched season 1 in 2017. So we've reached all these people across the world. Before that, as the bio mentioned, I was a museum educator. I actually worked at the Museum of Science in Boston.
Yeah.
I was at Northeastern University, go Huskies, and in Marshfield, at Marshfield High School. So before that. So very much an East Coast sensibility, I would say, to getting things done. And one of the things that I noticed as a science educator and actor and then comedian was the power of these tools of joyful, comedic style to improve how education sticks. And that, combined with my particular joy of communicating science, was a lot of the influence in why I created Science with Sophie.
Yeah. Behavioral neuroscience and theater, those degrees. I mean, not many people would think of getting those two matched together. I mean, I'm going to ask you, even though I know some of the answers, but how did you get interested in those, behavioral neuroscience and theater?
Yeah, you were part of the inspiration, honestly, for my curiosity as a kid. I mean, I've always been a curious kid, and then having parents like you and my mom, who Carol Shrand, shout out to Carol Shrand, people
Shout out,
who are
Carol.
listening, know Carol Shrand. I call her Mom Junior in the show. You'll see it if you watch the road trip series. So I've always been a really curious kid, and then I went through that period of lack of confidence in science and math that I think a lot of kids go through, a lot of girls in particular, around
Mm.
middle school, early high school, where I thought, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I'm not good at it. I was, kind of told that even though I had maybe the most supportive household, still the messaging that we're getting through media is very powerful. And that message of like, girls don't do science, they don't do math, whatever. And then I had who I call my own real life Ms. Frizzle. Do you know Ms. Frizzle, Magic School Bus?
Absolutely.
The best. So my chemistry teacher, Mrs. Norton, in 10th grade, was my real life Miss Frizzle, where
Really?
oh yeah, she was so excited about science. She taught us how cool chemistry is. We were doing experiments. It was wild. It was wacky. There was some risk involved. It felt really engaging and really immersive. And I totally took to it and realized, oh my gosh, I love this and I'm really good at it. I think being involved in that way and getting excited about something is one of the best ways to realize that you have a skill. You have
Yeah.
agency in something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. What was it about it that was so inspiring? Was it really her as the teacher? Could it have been any subject? And she was just like an inspiring human being for you?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think the right personality to click with how I was going to respond and the subject itself. She brought it to life in a way that I think every good educator brings their subject to life, you know? So she brought it to life for me and I was totally hooked. And I realized then, well, I've had a curiosity about the world that is innately scientific. So many of us, I mean, all humans are innately scientific because we have curiosity. We ask questions about our world. We test things out. We create a hypothesis, a way we think we could explain a phenomenon that we're experiencing, and then we test out to see if we're right or not. That's all very innately how we discover the world as kids.
Yes.
So all of those scientific practices really were compelling to me. So I knew I wanted to work in science. I knew I wanted to do something with people. Behavioral neuroscience is about our brain.
Right.
It's like so interesting. It's such a pioneering space too, because there's a lot we know and there's a lot that we're still learning every single day. So that was very exciting to me. And then I also knew I really, really wanted to keep doing theater because theater, I've been an actor since I was a kid, as you recall.
Yes, I do. Since you were a little kid, like 4, 5, 6 years old, you were singing and acting and yeah,
Yeah. Going to rehearsals, many a drive that we had on our ways to and from rehearsals.
absolutely.
Yep.
Uh,
So thank you for your support.
it's a pleasure. And I'll just say as an aside, when we were driving, we would talk about all sorts of things. But I must admit that when you were in rehearsal, that's when I would go to the library, and that's actually when I started to write a couple of my books. So thank you for giving me the time to do that, Sophie Shrand.
Hey, you use the time wisely. We love a twofer, you know? I love efficiency. Love getting something done when we're also getting something done.
And the theater part. I mean, yes, I also had some theater experience, but what is that like for you to now, be in this position where you have a Telly Award winning show where you're using your theater, you're using your science, you're reaching millions of people. Let's just back up just a minute. What's that like for you,
Hmm.
Sophie?
Ooh, it is incredible. It's a labor of love every single day. I made this show independently. I was working in science museums for a decade and I was doing theater and then found improv comedy and was combining all of them and realized I could reach more people through the power of media. And if media is so powerful and creates messaging that can go in a negative direction, well, let's flood the airwaves with positive messaging that includes everybody into that conversation. When I decided to do that, I didn't have any background in TV, any knowledge of TV as far as connections or networking or how to get a show on or how to make a show. I just was like, I got to figure that out. So it has been, we're coming up on a decade in October. And I have learned so much. I now run this production company that makes my show, other shows that I'm in. And it is incredibly gratifying to see it take hold because it is so much work. I heard someone say recently, like the idea of entrepreneurship and starting a company where it's like, oh, you left a 9 to 5 so you could work 24 hours a day.
Right.
And that is absolutely how it feels because when you're creating something when I'm creating something that is so much a part of my being, and I've risked a lot of security, a lot of job security, a lot of, 401k and health insurance and all of the stability of working for another bigger corporation and doing my own thing and starting my own venture. I wake up thinking about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. I think about it when I'm asleep. I would love to not sometimes, but it's a blessing and a curse. But that is so all consuming because there's this big, ambitious goal and a huge mission that is going to take a lot of work, effort, sweat, blood, tears, laughter, people all coming together to do this. And so now that we are reaching all these people, we've got viewers on every continent, which is a wild, like even Antarctica.
That's wild. That's incredible. Viewers on every continent.
And it keeps me going, hearing from those people and hearing them say, I watched your show and it meant something to me. I learned something. I went out and explored my world because of it. That all is what keeps me going. It really is.
Yeah, that is so powerful to have all these learners across the world. And that is something powerful that will keep us going. And for me, not only is it incredibly rewarding to have you as my child, but it's also incredibly rewarding to have sponsors who want to support everything that we do here at WATD and the Dr. Joe Show. So, Larry, I know you're in the studio there. With that in mind, let's take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show and Sophie Shrand. We'll be right back. And we are back with the Dr. Joe Show and my eldest child, Sophie Shrand of Science with Sophie. Off air, we were talking quite a bit about the road trip that you're doing, but I always, folks, that I always have my Science with Sophie mug that I drink out of. And my daughter did say, what are you drinking? I said, coffee. She said, oh, you should be drinking more water. So I'm not sure that any guest of mine has ever commented on that, but that is what being a dad is all about. And I really appreciate it. So this is just so much. It's so much fun
really,
for me.
Really be water in that mug.
Yes, all right.
You really should. Gotta drink more water, Dad. Everyone, if there's one thing anyone takes away from this, please drink more water.
Please drink more water. That's so true. And WATD, I mean, we could just take out the D and put an ER and we'd be 95.9 FM water.
That's right. You can't spell water without WATD.
Water, right.
Yep.
So you drove an electric vehicle across the country.
Twice.
That's twice, right? Back and forth. Tell us about that. How did that whole thing evolve?
It was quite an evolution. Science with Sophie has existed for a while now. And because of that, the kids who were watching when we started are now teenagers, preteens, teens, which is a, sobering thought as an adult here in the world. The passage of time is wildly fast, but it is so cool to see and get to hear from my audience of kids who are now going into adolescence. They're thinking about getting their license. They're thinking about that moment of independence, that pretty big milestone of growing up. And they're thinking about the world they're inheriting as well. We know that climate change is really top of mind. It is a major concern for adolescents and a lot of us of any age, as it should be, because it is a crisis. So a lot of those things were really just in my mind as I was thinking about how am I constantly serving my audience? How am I growing with my audience? I always want to be growing with my learners and staying with them and encouraging them along the way on their lifetime of learning. So all of that was happening as I moved to Los Angeles from New York. So I'm from Marshfield, and then I was in Chicago, and then New York, and then I was in LA. And I moved to LA, needed a car. I knew I wanted it to be an electric car. I'm really conscious of that stuff. And the industry strikes were happening. I don't know if anyone was following the entertainment strikes, where basically all production stopped. And I'm in the industry of entertainment. I am also an independent producer. So it actually, as I was thinking, oh gosh, nothing is happening. Like we moved to LA and then everything stops. And I realized it's a good time to be an independent producer and know how to make my own shows. I've already learned by this time how to produce things on my own, how to fundraise, how to get an idea off the ground, literally and figuratively, and not have to wait for permission from a bigger studio or a network. So that's how the show started, is I had this idea and then it got bigger and bigger and I realized, wait a minute, what would it be like to drive an electric car coast to coast to coast? I was looking it up and there are lots of road trips out there that are done in EVs now. It is still a question mark for a lot of families. So I thought, well, if I'm wondering it and other people are wondering it, sounds like there's got to be some science there. Time for a big experiment.
And I mean, the EV, the electric vehicle, is relatively new. And I guess one of the challenges must have been, can you find chargers for your electric vehicle as you go across country?
Yeah, I was setting out to ask myself, can it be done and can it be fun? Because there is an improving infrastructure that is getting better literally every day. Even though it's not perfect yet, we are still in this kind of pioneering phase. But some might say, even in the time between when we drove and now, that are we even in a pioneering phase still? Because so much progress has happened. I think yes. Being an EV driver today, I think there are still some challenges that we're seeing, especially with this current environment that we're in, where we're getting suddenly climate change has become a politicized issue. It is creating complexity when it comes to creating solutions for this crisis. And one of those solutions is finding more sustainable ways to travel. So it's a very complicated sort of world and environment to be in. One of the things I think about a lot is how when we call them internal combustion engine vehicles, so ICE vehicles or gas cars, when those first came on the scene, they were in a pioneering phase too. And there were a lot of things we figured out along the way as those became more mainstream. And we're kind of in that moment now, which is pretty exciting to be in for a new type of technology.
Is there resistance to it, do you think? I mean,
I think that, when we read articles and hear sort of pontifications about these things and everybody has an opinion, what I found on the road was generally, that was actually one of the things I was testing, was as I meet people across the country, we did 25 states, 7,000 miles. And I wanted to test as much as I possibly could in the time that we had and the budget that we had to film and meet people across the country and see, are we actually so different? We're told we're really different. We're told we're going to have these really different opinions about things and things will get heated and confrontational. And by and large, I found curiosity over confrontation.
that's wonderful.
Every time. Yeah, it was really wonderful. Sometimes it was surprising. Sometimes I expected somebody to approach me and be kind of gruff or be like, what is that car you're driving? What is that? And that happened. And then very quickly it was like, what is that? Wait, tell me what you're doing. What? Oh my gosh, science? Oh, this car is how big? And it has how many miles? And it was just conversation after conversation. Here's actually a fun fact is we were filming every single day. We filmed for 55 days in a row. We were on the road for 49 days. Every day that we were filming, I realized about a couple days in, we had to budget about 2 hours of extra time because people would want to chat with us.
That's
So
wonderful.
we'd be done charging, the car would be ready to go, and we'd still be chatting with people and chatting and chatting. So we were late to our destination like every single day of the trip, and it wasn't always because of charging.
I think it's great. And again, it speaks to who we are as human beings, this curiosity, this cooperation, this idea that we don't need to have this competitive world where we're like, I mean, Sophie, you've grown up with the I am approach, the idea that the only way we can feel valued is to decrease somebody else's. It's just going to lead us to trouble, and has.
It has, and it doesn't really work.
No,
Like it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel as good. And that's where the neuroscience of comedy comes in.
Yes.
That in comedy, we talk about there are terms, I don't know if you've heard the term punching up or punching down.
No, tell us about that.
Yeah. So in comedy, if you're punching up, You're making a joke at the expense of someone of higher status. So when we make fun of the president, right, or a king, somebody of higher status than us, if you're making fun of the boss or whatever, that's punching up. Whereas punching down is punching at someone who's lower status than you. So if I was, an adult making fun of a kid, it wouldn't feel good. It's punching down, right? Ugh.
And people don't like that. That's not real humor, is it? I mean,
Well, yeah, here's the thing. So when we punch up, there's a lot of commentary to be had about whether, satire is making fun of a scenario for some social political commentary, which is really valuable, and satire is wonderful and has a lot of value. I personally also like to think about, what if we had comedy that just didn't punch at all?
Oh, lovely idea.
Right? What if we just have comedy where everybody is in on the joke? No one is the butt of the joke. We can comment on a situation. Satire comments on the scenario that we're in. The thing is, we're actually all in the scenario together because we all are on planet Earth. So if we can create a sense of comedy that makes everyone feel good and part of it, in on the joke, that's where the neuroscience of comedy can be incredibly effective as a learning tool and as a way for us to come together and find solutions. So that is my total jam. Super into it.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to talk about the neuroscience of that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take there. Let's go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The neuroscience of comedy.
Let me add it. Okay. Right. So as you know, as a doctor of the mind yourself, when we laugh, a lot of things happen. And that is a decrease in cortisol, which is our stress hormones. They go down, right? Our dopamine and serotonin goes up. Our feel-good hormones go up. What also goes up is oxytocin.
Yes, not OxyContin.
Correct.
Oxytocin, yeah.
Real different. Do nary the two shall meet. Do not get confused. Yes.
And oxytocin is the neurohormone of trust and happiness.
Exactly right. Bonding.
Bonding.
Yeah. That's right. So when oxytocin goes up, we feel more trusting.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible phenomenon. If you have that good, I like to ask people, think about a time where you were belly laughing in a living room or, somewhere. Probably it was with dear friends or family or some people who are really close to you, right? Maybe it was at a show. Maybe it was, as a comedian, I'd love to think it was at a show. Chances are it was probably somewhere you felt really, really relaxed, right?
Yeah.
And that feeling in your body, you feel like you just open up and you can feel it physically as that stress kind of melts away. That's that cortisol going down, your oxytocin going up, all the feel-good hormones going up. And when that happens, your brain is now more receptive to learning because you are safe. You are in a safe space.
Right. And that's so critical because we know that cortisol, folks, that the stress hormone, cortisol interferes with dopamine, the neurohormone of pleasure, and oxytocin, the neurohormone of happiness and trust. It's very hard to feel pleasure or trust when you're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we now also know that oxytocin can break through both of those.
Yes. And when subjects in a recent study were given oxytocin, they were more likely to laugh.
Yeah.
So it goes in both directions too.
Absolutely.
Coolest thing.
And oxytocin is something that we can increase in somebody else's brain so easily, just by treating them with respect, treating them with value, and sharing that moment of joy and laughter together. Am I missing something here? Or?
I know, right? Doesn't it seem so simple? It's like, this is human connection. And this is why I have married neuroscience and theater so deeply together, because they're all looking at the human condition. We've been telling stories and doing theater with each other and laughing together for millennia. It works. It's perhaps one could even say a survival tool. Oh, could I be so bold?
Oh my goodness. Yes, because it is that neurohormone of trust. And as you say, when you're feeling trust, you don't have to worry about the saber-toothed tiger coming to get you. You can learn more. You can be more receptive. You can be more aware of what's going on around you.
Yep. Take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that's how we find new solutions. Like that aha moment, that light bulb moment can happen when you're in that state.
So how do we increase that in each other? Because there are definitely ways to do it. I mean, I can tell you that every 15 minutes, so
Mhm. Mhm.
my oxytocin levels go through the roof
Mhm.
because I have sponsors who want to support these conversations on a regular basis. So
Mhm.
my cortisol levels go down, my oxytocin levels go up. I feel this great joy and happiness. And with that in mind, Larry, let's listen to our oxytocin stimulating sponsors, and we'll be right back with Sophie Shrand and the Dr. Joe Show. We'll be right back. And we are back, folks, with the Dr. Joe Show here, 95.9 FM WATD, or whatever. Larry's there in studio. Thanks, Larry. And I am here with Sophie Shrand. You may recognize the last name. And just for those folks, you know the introductory song that you hear, Van Gogh? Sophie was singing that. And it was many years ago. I know she gives me a hard time for it, but I couldn't help just giving that shout out as well. Sophie, you're doing
It's a
so.
it's a lot. I just gotta say, it was a long time ago, and I feel in my own head and how it reverberates like I sound entirely different from that
Yeah,
when I sing too. So I forget that that's me, honestly, sometimes.
yeah. I
Oh
don't.
yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking about the road trip. We're talking about also the experience of humanity coming together as you're driving across country. One of the things I like to say is, we're one group. It's called humanity. We don't have to keep stressing ourselves out. You're part of that group, next group. So that was part of the experience. And you had a crew as well who's helping film it. And how do people see it, Sophie? Let's go to there. How do people watch this right now?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of that. Hold on. So let's see. Take it in reverse order. It's called Sophie's Great American Electric Road Trip, and it is streaming on PBS Nature. So if
Ooh.
you go to pbs.org, you can find it there. You can also find it on YouTube, on PBS Nature on YouTube, as well as Science with Sophie on YouTube. That's my channel, and it lives there too. So it's a number of different places. We're also working with libraries across the country. We've partnered up with HHMI Tangled Bank Studios and StarNet, lots of different names and organizations that are all about finding science across America and finding curiosity everywhere. So we are working with a number of different library partners, over 100 libraries across the country. So if you are listening and you are a library or you know a library that wants to get involved, please reach out because we want to bring this to you and your library as well. We're going to be doing all kinds of different conversation starters so that librarians can use some short clips from the episodes and full episodes if they want to be community conversation starters about science where you are and finding science in community. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
It's so much
It's
fun.
it's already fun. So we're 5 episodes in. We have 8 episodes total. It's an 8 episode half-hour series, and we just launched episode 5, in which we come home to Massachusetts and spend some time there.
That's right. Yes, folks, you've got to watch that because you may recognize the beach, you may recognize parts of Marshfield, recognize our house. It's a little embarrassing for me because I was weighed a lot more then, but
Why is
that's
that
also.
embarrassing?
Well,
There's no, there's no,
I'll do a different show. We'll do a different show on that. So
yeah,
anyway,
there's
my
nothing
daughter,
embarrassing
my
about
daughter.
whatever size that you are.
Good point.
I think we need to break down that body
Good.
shaming moment right
It's
now.
so true. Thank you so much. No, because you've heard me say, there used to be that phrase years ago, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I found that my waste was a terrible thing to mind. Sophie
Yeah,
is
yeah.
for those of you who are just listening to the radio, you cannot see my daughter's eye roll right now as she's listening to her dad's really bad dad jokes. I will
I
take these no farther. Yeah.
Oh wow. I simply want I would like to do a little PSA moment that as long as you are healthy, that's what matters. Bodies come in all shapes and
Good
sizes,
point. Good point.
all heights, all skin tones, all sizes, widths, whatever. Like as long as you are healthy and you are loving your own skin, that is what matters.
That is so true. And you got to see hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of people across the country.
Yes.
Uh, and that experience, you notice I was like moving away from that.
I know.
Thanks.
I know you will.
I
Yeah.
should know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'll say what I needed to say.
I just want to back up a little bit. First of all, the electric vehicle that you drove, to tell us a little bit about that. How did you get that car, and what kind of car was it?
Sure. Well, I drive a Chevy Bolt EUV here in Los Angeles, which is awesome. I love this little car. I say little, it's not that little, but it's kind of petite and gets us where we need to go. It's real zippy, speedy, fun to drive. I wasn't sure if my husband would fit in there for sleeping because we wanted to camp as
That is
well as
great.
part of this
And
experiment
thank you.
and see,
All
can you
right.
take an electric car into more remote areas? I do think that's possible with the Chevy Bolt EUV. I'll have to test it out. But the other thing that was really an interesting line to, is that the right phrase? An interesting needle to thread is that I'm a scientist and I make science comedy. I don't want to be biased. So I don't take sponsorships from brands. I am very, very careful about who I partner with because I never want to be seen as biased. I never want to be marketing to kids. Now, to do a road trip, you need a car, which does require a brand of some kind. There's no unbranded car out there. So I got connected with Rivian, which is a very cool company. They make electric adventure vehicles is kind of their thing. So they make a truck, they make a big SUV, they make a few other things now. And they didn't sponsor me. I didn't take they lent me the car. I gave it back. They didn't give any money to me. We need money for production always, but I have to be careful where I take it from. But they lent me the car. It was like, what's really sustainable? Borrowing stuff from your friends. So
Yeah, right.
here we go. And that is how I got the car to use for the show. And I also was just a fun sort of a nuts and bolts behind the scenes look is that I had to work really hard with them in the contracting phase of that to say, I have to be able to say exactly what happens. I don't know what's going to happen out on the road, and I need to have journalistic independence and integrity to say whatever needs to be said here. And we were like, okay, yeah, no problem. And so that is how that relationship happened. And we drove that car. It was very fun to drive. We also, because it's an electric car, with these electric cars, we could camp in an RV spot, for example, hook up the car to a 50 amp charger and charge our camera batteries in the car because there are outlets in the car,
Wow.
and then wake up with a full charge and a full battery charge, which was great because to your point about the crew, we had a very small crew who are my really near and dear crew, some of whom have been with me since the very beginning of Science with Sophie, and I love them so much. Got to shout out Megan St. John of Hike Creative because I basically call her every once in a while over the last decade and say, Megan, I got a wild idea. And she's like, I'm in. Let's do it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like they get bigger and wilder every time. And she's like, okay, let's go. So we had a small crew with us for the first couple of days while we were filming in some of the national parks in Utah. And then they left and we were on our own because that was definitely something I knew I wanted to test. I would have
Really.
loved to have the budget to have the crew with us the entire time we were on the road, but that's a lot to ask of people. And I knew that a family who was going on a trip like this wouldn't have a big production crew and a lot of resources around them if something did go wrong. So that was really something I wanted to test out. So for most of the trip, it was me and Brendan, my husband and co-pilot, and he's an actor as well, but he became a cinematographer because he was handed a camera and said, figure it out, buddy. And he did. And you get to watch that journey.
Yeah.
Episode by episode, you get to see Brendan operating the camera and learning how to do it. And it's actually really, really special to me to see what happens by episode 8. And
Oh,
like, no spoilers, but it's pretty cool.
I can't wait. And folks, please watch it because the dynamic between Brendan and Sophie is so wonderful. It really is. The riffing they have, the improvisation, because he is an incredible actor as well. But the show is so real because it is real.
Yeah, we weren't acting, it was actually something that when we started out, I thought it was going to be season 4 of Science with Sophie because that show has a style. I play a lot of characters in the show. It's a sketch comedy science show. So think like Saturday Night Live meets Bill Nye the Science Guy, but family friendly. Saturday Night Live, like Bill Nye is family friendly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It is a scripted show. It has characters, and I thought this is going to be really different, but it's still Science with Sophie. And then it very quickly was just its completely own thing. It's not Science with Sophie really at all, because it's us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of me in my everything that I make
Right.
as a TV host. And this was the most raw and like unfiltered we could get because we were like, we don't know what's going to happen. And we're filming it no matter what.
And each episode, with Science with Sophie, which I absolutely love, but there is a format to it. I mean,
Hmm.
there's the opening sketch, there's the kids in it, there's the science, there's you know what to expect. I don't know what to expect when I'm watching it, and I think that's what also makes it really exciting and interesting,
Yeah.
because like, what's going to happen next, and
Yeah.
all the emotions that you and Brendan experience doing that. Nothing is off limits. That sadness, the fear, the worry,
Hmm.
the excitement. Again, am I missing something here? Or
No, not at all. It was actually something my editing team was really sensitive about. And one of the reasons I love my editing team, so shout out to the editing crew, Andy, Lindsay, the whole team. They were really sensitive about how much footage we have and how much emotional roller coastering happens to
yeah,
anyone when you're on a road trip. And we just had cameras rolling the whole time, right? So they asked me, like, how much of that do you want to show? Where are your boundaries and your limits of your own privacy and stuff? And I really don't have an ego about it. I really wanted it to be honest and real and say this is what we're modeling for everybody. Like this is how we are working through problems. This is how we are problem solving as a team. One of the audience members in the very first premiere screening we did of episode 1 actually came out to us afterward and said how meaningful it was to her to see Brendan being a supportive husband because she
yes,
doesn't see that modeled in her community. That's
yep,
what she said. She said, I don't see that very often, and it was really, really great to see. And that meant the world because that's the exact kind of thing we want to model. Not that we're perfect, we're not, right? But we're really intentional about how we can solve problems together because we can't pretend things are all going to be perfect all the time. And I think that actually circles back to this moment of EV pioneering, technology and the progress that's happening. I actually got a lot of comments on episode 1 in particular when we launched the series on YouTube, saying like, this isn't even news anymore. It's a lot of people who are early EV adopters, and credit to them. Credit, like, I love an early adopter. Great. But they were like, I don't even know why you're doing this. This is so old news. No one even wonders this anymore. Of course you can do a road trip in an electric car. And I'm like, that's not a helpful thing. I love that we're seeing that it's normalized for some people. And it's not helpful to say, nobody wonders this. This is old news because you're turning people off. And
mm,
it's just not true. Like, of course, it's not going to be perfect. If you're driving a gas car, it's not going to be perfect. And if we pretend it is, then we're missing an opportunity to have a real conversation. And that's where we can learn and grow, like we were talking about before.
yeah. It's so interesting how some people just cannot accept the creative process, the ability to get things done, as if somehow it's always been done before, and it has not. Time is always new. We call it a present. It's a gift. And what's really a gift for me is that every 15 minutes, my sponsors give me back that gift so that we can continue in our present right here, giving you the gift that we share, especially today with Science with Sophie. We will be right back with the Dr. Joe Show. Take it away, Larry. Welcome back, folks. We're back with the Dr. Joe Show and Sophie Shrand of Science with Sophie. And off air, we were talking about, well, what's coming up next. And, people may not realize, but Science with Sophie actually started in Chicago, right? I mean, that's really, you'd been here at our museum here, and then you went out to Chicago, worked at the Museum of Science and Industry there. That's where Science with Sophie started. But something's going on with Chicago now. So let's tell us about that. What's coming up next?
I always love going back to Chicago. Chicago is a different kind of home for me, for sure. Boston and Marshfield are absolutely home. And then Chicago is a different home. And I one of the things that also came about in this road trip is like, how many types of homes can we have? And
Good
Not,
point.
I mean, gosh, not physically. I would, I don't even have one home that I own physically, but but the metaphor of home, like what does home mean, you know? And home means so many different things. So Chicago is one home for me, for sure. I got my not my improv start because I started improv in Boston, but I was at Second City in Chicago and I learned so much there. And then, yep, as you said, Science with Sophie started there. I started to really connect these puzzle pieces. They kind of magnetized together. I actually knew I wanted to create something along the lines of it back in 2012. And it was about 4 years. It was one of the reasons I moved to Chicago because I identified a certain skill set that I wanted to collect for myself so that I could do this thing and create this big wild idea and vision that I had. So that move was a big part of that. So now I get to go back because I am a featured change maker in the Obama Presidential Center.
I tell you, so when I tell people that, they they just flip out. It is so cool. It's because they say, "Oh, she visited the center." I say, "No, she's in it."
Right.
What?
Yeah.
First of all, how did that happen?
Yeah. I you know, through different people in my journey of this whole science comedy for girls and everyone adventure, I've met a lot of people and worked in a lot of different spaces and I say I'm collecting my basket of geniuses. Like this is
Nice.
it's all about relationships and how we create change by meeting those people who are going to help us get to that next phase and create something special. So somebody that I had worked with, she and I had developed some curriculum together a while ago on science and social justice. And years later, she was at the Obama Foundation and she nominated me for this. This was something they knew they were doing in the museum. They wanted to highlight 33 different change makers from across the world, and my name was put forward.
From
And
across the world. From
across the
across the
world,
world. Okay.
across the world,
Hmm.
and yes, hmm
I didn't realize that part until
oh
just now.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
it's
Even cooler.
incredibly humbling to be part of that community and that cohort because it was a unanimous decision apparently, and it had to go to the very top to be approved.
And
So
the top would be
the Obamas.
the Obamas. The Obamas.
Yeah, I mean everybody there is so hands-on with the decision making in that wonderful museum.
It's
It's
wonderful.
an incredibly thoughtful place. Having gotten to go and get a sneak peek, it is really, really worth the trip. It's very moving. It is hopeful. It is all the emotions. It really is a beautiful beacon of a museum. And my story gets to be part of it. So there's a couple different kiosks in this exhibit called Imagine Your Impact that is designed to be interactive so that people who go to it can see what different community change makers have done in their own place, wherever they are, and they noticed something that needed to be changed and what could they do about it, inspiring you to think about what change you could make in your community.
Mm.
And my story's in there. So Science with Sophie is in there.
And I
Yeah.
just want to say to our audience, listeners, that when Sophie told me this, it was on Father's Day. So it was one of the most incredible Father's Day gifts I've ever had. And she said that she'd signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, for how much? How long was that
2
for?
years. It was a long time.
So I just want people to know my daughter kept a secret from me for 2 years.
I
And
had
that
to.
is impressive, I must
It
admit.
was hard. One of the
It
hardest things
was
I've ever done.
hard. I'm glad to hear
Very difficult, but I'm a professional, you know?
that. So good. And now what's happening this last weekend of August? Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
So I am now going to be at the Obama Center for a panel discussion on learning democracy through laughter. It is at the Eli Wiesel Theater at the Obama Center, and it is going to be me, Keegan Michael Key, and Bill Nye.
Oh my
It's going
gosh.
to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a really fun night. It's just three of us. Keegan Michael Key is moderating. So he is a very well-known comedian. For those of you who may remember him as Obama's anger translator, also from the show Key and Peele. He also was at Second City before my time. But we have that, I think, shared sensibility. And then Bill Nye is, of course, a legend in science TV, also comedy. He's also a funny person. He has a comedy background as well. So I think it's going to be a really, really fun event.
Learning democracy through laughter. Tell me about that. What does that even mean? Learning
Yeah.
democracy through laughter.
Well, it really comes back, I think, to what we were talking about earlier with the science behind why laughter is such a great learning tool. How do we use laughter to promote civic engagement? And, a little sneak peek, my personal jam about that is that we're promoting critical thinking. And those scientific practices that I mentioned earlier, like forming a hypothesis, asking a testable question, analyzing your evidence, recognizing bias, these are all really critical scientific skills. They're also life skills. So when we talk about civic engagement and becoming a responsible global citizen, I'm so excited to get to speak about it on this stage because it's something I've been talking about on stages for a while now, actually, is that opportunity to use scientific practice and engineering practice to translate out into the larger global landscape. Not everybody has to be a scientist. If everybody grows up who's watching my show and becomes a scientist, great, cool, whatever, awesome. But that's not my goal, actually. My goal is to create a generation and multiple generations of critical thinkers who have compassion and empathy, because I think those are also scientific skills.
I agree, and I think it's really important. The words critical thinking doesn't mean that you're being critical, right? It doesn't mean you're criticizing people. It's not an aggressive emotion, that critical thinking. Can you explain to our audience a bit about that?
Yeah, it's a good point because I think that word has maybe been co-opted a little bit by the idea
Yeah.
of criticism
Yes.
being an insult or a critique being negative.
Right.
When we are thinking critically, we are thinking with logic and thinking deeply,
Mm.
thinking something through, considering all sides of an argument or an opinion, backing up our own claims from evidence, realizing that we have an opinion, but can we also back it up with facts? And can we make sure those facts are researched and vetted, right? Knowing where your source comes from is
Yeah.
so critically important. So I think about critical more like it is critically important. It
Yes.
is so pivotal to our operations as a society because ultimately it gets down to how we know what is true.
Yeah.
We are finding and searching for a collective truth. And again, that's where theater comes back in because theater is also examining what that human truth is.
Yep.
And one of the things that concerns me deeply about this moment is that we are in a space because technology has really run so rampant so fast and it's kind of gotten out of our control here that it can be really hard to know what is true. It can be
Yeah.
very easy to have our emotions preyed upon because this tech, a lot of social media is designed to be addictive, get our cortisol up, get our hackles up, get us to respond right away, get us angry because that's going to get us to scroll more and engage, right? And that's how we get like those mean comments on my YouTube channel,
Right.
right? If those people had taken a little bit of time and thought about, maybe even watched the full episode before commenting, they would realize there's actually a lot more beyond just the idea of testing the infrastructure of the EV charging network in the country. It's about meeting people. It's about finding science where we are. It's about finding a cool turtle or a person building an electric motorcycle. There's so much more beyond what first meets the eye. And that kind of critical thinking is indeed critical, that we don't jump to conclusions in a society where we are really encouraged to just jump from thing to thing to thing, you
Yeah.
know?
So to take our time to contemplate, to think, and I agree. Not everyone is going to be a sort of documented professional scientist, but we are all scientists in that way. We're
We are.
all, and we have to be. We
Yep.
have to be. Millions of years ago, the animal, the human being that did not recognize the rustling in the bush behind them, they were lunch.
That's right.
So, Sophie, The I am approach, right, is basically saying that we're always doing the best we can, right? But influenced and responding to 4 domains. Your home domain, the social domain, these 2 domains are outside. Then the internal domains, the biological domain of your brain and body, and the I see domain. How do I see myself? How do I think other people see me? Because the 4 domains interact, a small change can have a big effect. We don't need to change everything. So, given what we're talking about tonight, so what small change can you recommend to our listeners?
One small change that might feel like a big change is the next time that you're about to search for an answer on the internet, think about who you know who might have the answer and call them.
Yeah.
Wild stuff, right? Seems like a crazy high ask sometimes. I said this to somebody in preparation for a panel once, and they were like, I don't think people are going to want to do that. And that made me so sad because there was a time where we would do that more. And we are so quick to just like take the first answer that comes our way. And quite often, right now, honestly, is a lot of misinformation. If we go on Google and ask a question, if you don't put in minus AI, the first answer you're going to get is an AI overview. And a lot of those are incorrect. So we are creating a really destabilized situation where we start to assume fact that is not fact. It's the opposite of that critical thinking that we were talking about, where we just take it as fact because someone on the internet told us, when that someone isn't even a person, it's a collection of an algorithm, right? So I really would like to encourage people to get back to our human shared knowledge and understanding. Maybe you might not even like know an expert in a specific thing, but you probably know somebody who you could have a conversation with about it. And that is valuable, you know?
Yeah, it's actually really kind of scary to think that we are relying on AI, and AI is going to answer what we want to hear very often.
It absolutely is. That's right. That's right. I don't know if you've noticed, but when I search, because I have to do a lot of research for my job, when I do an initial Google search to then find my primary sources, it is hard to even find those primary sources now. The searching has just gotten so inundated with garbage, to be honest, that I have to sift through. And the reason I'm able to do it is because I am practiced and skilled in knowing how to find primary sources.
Mm.
So we need to create a system that sets people up for that ability. If they're going to be wading through the internet now, right? How do you maintain those scientific practices for yourself and those critical thinking skills to be able to identify what is factual information and what is misinformation? That's that internet literacy, that social media literacy that is like really important. And I do think one of the best ways to combat that inundation with misinformation is to have human connection.
You,
Or
yeah,
like go to a library. Go to a library. Ask a librarian.
yeah.
Librarians know a lot and they can help you find stuff. And it's free.
And what you're going to find is stuff written by humans.
Written by humans. Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
With human experience, human knowledge, human creativity, human innovation. That is way too precious to me to want to give away.
Agreed. So the second truth of the I am. Everyone's got one. Everyone is interested through their I see domain, what you think about them, which has an effect on their biological domain. Because, it feels different when you feel respected or disrespected. And you are part of someone's home or social domain. So the second truth of the I am, you control no one, but you influence everyone. And you get to choose the kind of influence you want to be. Sophie Shrand, science educator, award-winning TV host, person now a change maker in the Obama Presidential Center. What kind of influence do you want to be?
I want to be the kind of influence that gets people excited to explore their world and be curious about each other and approach that curiosity with a sense of openness and empathy. And the coolest thing is, I get to do that. I get to do that every day. Like that is the career that I've been able to create for myself, and I'm really, really honored to do it.
And you're doing it remarkably. And you 2 million people across the world, every
Well,
continent.
I was realizing we probably need to update that number now that we've partnered with PBS Nature for this distribution of this series, because I think that number is going up pretty high.
Going up. So we're out of time today, but Sophie, thank you so much, folks. Go listen. Science with Sophie. Check it out. Thank you so much for being here, Sophie Shrand.
Thanks for having me, Dad.
And listen, that's her.
A long time ago.
Just a show, then go.